Hey everybody, my name is Steven and welcome back to the Storytime channel. Without wasting any time, let's get into our stories of the day. So you want to break my skateboard? During the summer of 2007, my friends and I were hardcore into skating. I was around 13 years old at the time. My friends and I just started to get pretty good, which is what you'd expect considering we skated 24/7. I grew up with a single mother who worked 3 jobs to make ends meet, so I didn't really have much growing up besides my friends and a skateboard. It was my birthday early that summer and one of my friend's parents, they essentially raised me, bought me a new skateboard, which meant a lot to me considering that's all I got that year. In my neighborhood there was this curb which came in from the street and wrapped around a tree and dumped back onto the road. Once we figured out we can grind right around this, that's all we did if we weren't at the skate park or doing God knows what else. Well, the problem with this curb is that it was in front of the neighbor's house who was known across the neighborhood of being the typical annoying, nosy, and complaining sack of potatoes. Anyways, one day my friends and I are skating the curb like we did nearly every day that summer, but this time he came out and confronted my friends. Unfortunately for me, I didn't see him and I was coming flying in to hit the curb. Last second I see him and bail from the curb and my board landed right in front of him. With one fell swoop, he planted his foot directly through my board, and just like that, my birthday gift is broken. Fast forward 3 years and I have a new stepdad who made life that much better and actually started to have a relationship with my mother and him. During that summer, I was helping my stepdad in his car garage, helping fix and service cars and a bunch of stuff. Then one day, the man who broke my board came in and needed help with his car. As soon as he saw me, he reminded me about what he did to my board in a joking-like fashion, like what he did was funny. My neighbor came in saying that his brakes keep making a squeaking noise and demanded quite rudely, if I'm honest, we fix it instantly, saying that, "I want my car to be in tip-top shape, whatever you have to do." Then smirked at me and said, "I can afford it." My stepdad said that we were swamped and that he will call him when it's ready. He eventually signed and said some crude remark as he stormed out, leaving the car. I told my stepdad that I'll look at the car. Turns out all he needed was a simple oil change. Here's where the malicious compliance kicks in. It did occur to me that he said he wanted his car in tip-top shape and that he could afford it. I noticed that, well, he would certainly want some brand new filters. While we're at it, let's replace the battery and maybe the whole brake system as well. It's important to note, even though we didn't live in a rich area, this man had quite a bravado about him and would constantly flex his seemingly minimal wealth upon everyone he could. I ended up racking up closer to $2,000 worth of parts and was quite pleased with myself. Fast forward to the end of the day, my father had left and I was going to lock the shop up and my neighbor came to collect. Gave him the bill as he looks in anger and disbelief, saying, "Why did you replace the battery and brakes and whatnot?" I replied simply with, "You said tip-top shape, thought you could afford it." He then begrudgingly agreed and paid his bill. Did he break a maybe $50 skateboard? Yes. Did I rack up pointless replacements on perfectly fine parts that we later reused? Yes. Do you guys think that this revenge was too petty? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. I want to have a little discussion on this. We are not allowed to wear a jacket on top of the school uniform? Okay then. The high school I went to was academically successful but also a very strict school. It was so strict that we weren't even allowed to wear any socks other than white plain ones. Considering that it was a private school and everybody was there by their own choice, nobody really had a problem with that. One of the rules was, school uniform we are wearing has to be visible. Now, this rule normally doesn't stand out compared to some other insane rules, but one winter season, our school decided to save some money by decreasing the heating and they started to barely heat the buildings. As students, we were freezing, but when we come up with this to the principal, she said there was nothing she could do because the orders were coming from up. I would like to add that she had an air conditioner in her room and she heats the room to a degree that students started to hang out near her room. So, understandably, we started to wear our jackets during lessons. Our teachers were okay with this since they were also wearing really thick clothes themselves. But when principal saw so many of us breaking the rules, she went berserk on us and made it very clear that our school uniforms have to be visible. After freezing the whole day, I came up with my malicious idea. Yes, indeed, there was a rule that stated uniforms have to be visible, but there is actually no rule saying that we can't wear jackets or anything that kind. So wearing the school uniform on top of the jacket was technically okay, and I decided to do exactly that. I achieved to convince some of my friends to do the same as well. We were looking ridiculous and we were aware of that, but we were warm and we thought it was a cool thing that we were having a stance. When the teacher entered our classroom, he wanted us to stop joking around and wear our uniforms normally, but we defended ourselves by trying to explain, we are actually following the rules, and we have no other way to keep us warm and we won't stop until there is an alternative solution. The teacher decided to go with it, and when our classmates saw that we weren't forced to take the jackets off, they decided to join us. Next lesson, we were with the same teacher, and I guess in the break time, the principal heard some people were wearing jackets, so she decided to make a surprise visit to our class. When she entered our class, she was so shocked she couldn't say anything for at least 10 seconds. What she saw was 30 plus puffy students wearing their school uniforms on top of their jackets. When she came to her senses, she turned to our teacher and asked why they were like this and why he didn't do anything about it. Our teacher explained the situation and told her that we are not actually breaking any rules, so he didn't see a reason to stop us, and he thought it was actually nice that students were having a peaceful protest. The principal said this will be discussed later and left the room. We continued to wear our clothes like this until the end of the day, and when we were in the last lesson, the principal announced that until next notice, we were allowed to wear the jacket on top of our uniform. After around 2 months later, they announced their own uniform jacket, and we were forced to buy and wear that, but at least we didn't freeze those 2 months. Now, I was always in public school, but I always hated the idea of dress codes, and I especially hated the dress codes where they forced you to buy their own clothes. At least in my school, you did have to buy the gym kit, which was $50 for a very basic t-shirt and gym shorts. It's just a cash grab, and some of the rules are so mind-bogglingly bad. Kid in band keeps playing drums, teacher tells him to be quiet until she says his name. Okay. Saw a post here earlier about someone who stopped talking in class when their teacher told them to. Reminded me of my favorite story from the class I was a teacher assistant for in high school. So this isn't about me, something I witnessed. But in high school for my junior year, I was a teacher's assistant for the 9th grade band class. I'd been playing flute in the band since 8th grade, so this class was a breeze. Basically just teach a few kids about music and theory and stuff. One kid I taught in that class was a boy. We'll call him Jason, who was kind of known as the class clown. My sister was in his grade and would often come home to dinner with a Jason story to share. So I was excited to see if he was actually like that in class, and he definitely was. One day the kids are practicing a piece for an upcoming show. I'm taking notes in the front of the room for teaching points. The music teacher, Mrs. Cross, was conducting and trying to teach the woodwinds something about the piece, but Jason, a drummer on kit, kept playing along or tapping his foot too loudly, and it was distracting. Mrs. Cross asked him to be quiet a few times until she said, "Jason, stop making any kind of noise until I say your name again." "Okay," said Jason, and I thought, wow, that went well. The woodwinds learn their piece and they want to hear a few bars with full band. Mrs. Cross starts to conduct. The band sounds about as great as a 9th grade band can, but something sounds off. Made a note of it right as the music was supposed to have a big drum bit, but the kid didn't hit. Look up to Jason, who's paying attention, in the ready position, but Mrs. Cross was conducting and he just wasn't playing. The music stops and most kids turn to see what's happening on the drum rise, and Jason just relaxes again. Mrs. Cross asks why he didn't come in. "You told me to not make noise until you said my name. You didn't say my name." I still don't know if this was malicious on purpose or not, but either way, it's a fun story that gives those vibes. We all got some laughs out of it though. Mrs. Cross gave him permission to make noise again, and we didn't have one of those problems for the rest of the semester. For those of you that tuned in when I read the story that this story was inspired by, the person ended up getting taken to the principal over playing the malicious compliance part, but in this story it was just kind of a lighthearted, funny jab type thing since they said don't make any noise. It's nice that they saw the levity in the moment. My dad told me the bananas were my birthday gift, so I ate all of them. This happened when I was around 12 years old. It was my birthday, and in the morning I came out and asked my dad what he got me for my birthday. He didn't even wish me, and he was quite busy with work as well, so he just smirked and said, "I got you the bunch of bananas there." I was so upset and mad because he wouldn't even look up or wish me. I ate all 12 bananas because they were my present and I could. I'll never forget my dad's face when he found out. I hope that dad really likes bananas so that OP eating all 12 bananas hurt the dad a little bit somehow. Video game compliance. Essentially, due to poverty and my own self-reliance, I was raised by Sonic the Hedgehog, Crash Bandicoot, and both Banjo and Kazooie. We were a poor family, I was a well-behaved child, and every penny of pocket and chore money went on video games. Parents were happy because they needed to work, couldn't afford a babysitter, and the Genesis, PlayStation, Nintendo 64 were enough to keep me busy. Fast forward to today, and I've come first on several Fortnite matches, enough to say that video games remain an important part of my life. Mrs. OP has always known that me and video games are a package deal, and we've even played a lot together on games such as Wii Sports, PlayStation Move, and Just Dance. The latter being reluctantly, but so be it. Anyway, after nearly 15 years together, I play video games too much. Animal Crossing came out, bite me. So I agreed to play 1 hour, exactly 1 hour a day. Well, I set my timer going, the laundry needs putting out, timer paused. There are dishes on the rack that need to be put away, timer paused. Can you help me translate these paragraphs into English? Of course, my love. Timer paused. My boss has introduced some changes. I think she may have misunderstood. What, in your opinion, should I say to placate her? Timer paused. So it gets to around 10:30 p.m. and dear Mrs. OP is yelling at me for not being in bed. But I haven't had my hour of video games, dearest. Turns out that an exact hour of video games was way more than I was getting, and I'm not renegotiating. Happy smiley face. It's easy to take things for granted on both ends of the spectrum. So while it may be a common occurrence to see you playing games in your free time, all that free time added up might not be that much every single day. So just the frequency of them seeing you do it makes them think that you're doing it way too much. Not a big story, but a rather cute one. So this one is not so mean/cruel, but rather funny. Basically, there's a kid who likes to visit my dad. Jack, not his real name, is quite young, maybe 5 or 6, and tends to visit in hopes my dad will play with him. Well, on this occasion, Jack just opened the door to our home, and as such, my dad scolded him gently, telling Jack that walking in on people wasn't good, and he should knock as to not scare people. So Jack listens the fun way. So Jack just closes the door and almost immediately after begins to knock on it, being the dork he is. My dad answers and tells Jack he can't play and ends up closing the door. Cue knocking part 2. Another answer where Jack asks to play again, but my dad tells him no once again, hoping that'll be the end of it. Nope. My dad tries to ignore the next round of knocking, telling Jack to stop it, which he does for about 3 seconds before continuing. After about 30 seconds of knocking, my dad tells Jack he's going to tell his mom what Jack's been doing, which the snarky kid says, "No you won't," calling my dad out. This back and forth goes on for a minute longer before Jack finally goes on his way. No parents were alerted. I know it's not some grand story, but I thought you would all like to hear. I'm just trying to imagine the scenario in my head where it's okay for your 5 or 6-year-old to just walk around. I guess they must be next door neighbors or something like that. I know though that when I was a kid, I was probably roaming my street when I was that young. It's just as I get older, I feel a lot more concerned about kids that young just kind of roaming around. But with that being said, that's all the stories we have for today. So what I want to know is, which of these stories was your personal favorite and why? Let me know in the comments section down below. And thank you all so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel today. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. Thank you all again for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.